Hello and welcome to the Wasteland Wrap. I'm your host, Jacob Holmes. I'm joined this week again by Tyler Harner. Tyler, welcome back to the program. Uh,
Thanks so much for
if you
having me.
haven't if you haven't been with us before, this is our new show. I say new; we've been doing this for over a month now, um, where we talk about everything that's happened in movies, movie news in the past week. Maybe we'll expand it to TV news. Tyler, there was a lot of TV news we could have talked about this week, but we're focusing on movies, and there's lots of movie news this week too. So we're going to dive right into it. And I wanted to start, Tyler, with something that came late Friday after we aired last week's Wasteland Wrap, which is a new trailer for Spider-Noir. Um, did you catch this trailer?
I did, yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna we pulled a few screenshots from it. Um, So here we got Nicolas Cage's Spider Noir, and he's kind of webbing two guys together. Um, and let me get, I always forget to do this. And we've got, okay, so here's a, I guess this is like their version of Electro. Um, he's just kind of a goon that happens to have electric powers. There's no like costume, but this is a pretty cool shot of him zapping Spider Noir through some puddling on the ground there. This
Mm.
is uh this is creepy, probably the creepiest part of the trailer. There's some genuine horror in this thing, and I'm guessing this is going to be Man Spider. Um, but yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. As is
Oh,
this. A lot of people are going to have a phobia of that shot right there. Um, Here's another shot of the Electro type character. I don't know if they're going to call him Electro in the show or not, but he's the electric guy. This is the part I'm most excited about, as you can probably see by the Chiron that I put here.
yep.
Brendan Gleeson, we've got all of these. We've got Man Spider, we've got Electro. Tombstone is also in this. We've got a guy that's like on fire. I'm not actually sure what his counterpart is in the comic, but Brendan Gleeson is playing someone they're calling Silverman, I think, and or Silvermane maybe. But I don't. He's not monstrous. I don't think he's just a typical noir type bad guy, and I absolutely love Brendan Gleeson. So when I didn't realize he was even in this until this
Yeah,
trailer came
me
out,
neither.
and I'm so much more excited because he's in it. Um, and this is a great shot. This is the woman who brings. It seems from the trailer that she approaches Nicolas Cage, who is Ben Riley as a detective, and about a missing person, and he's trying to um, find out what happened to them. And here's just a quick close up look at obviously the Sandman.
Mm.
Um, Again, it's a very tactile compared to what we're used to seeing in like the more mainstream modern hero movies. Yeah, Tyler, how excited are you for Spider Noir, and what did you take away from this trailer?
I was initially like curious. I was gonna check it out regardless, just because I mean Nick Cage as Spider Noir in Into the Spider Verse was definitely one of the highlights of that movie for me. So them saying he was gonna get his own series initially had me confused and a little concerned. I didn't think that this was gonna be allowed. I know Sony has some real strict rules, and I don't quite know how they this came to be. I'm glad it did because um, a Spider-Man TV show is such an interesting idea because you do have this rogues gallery, and in the movies it's usually only focused on one or two villains, and you have your Spider-Man 3 issue was like there were too many villains, and that I feel like in a TV series you're able to kind of give maybe one episode to each villain or something like that. I don't know if they're going to all kind of blend over with different story arcs, or if they're just going to kind of be like a monster of the week type situation. But either way, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That trailer looks cool. I love that he's got like his webbing is like noir too, and then they showed it in the color version that his webbing is like a dark gray, which I think is nifty. But going into the horror route with it is so interesting. Yeah, that shot of the spiders coming out that got me good. I'm not the biggest fan of spiders as is, so seeing that was pretty freaky. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope Nick Cage brings it as he usually does, and I'll definitely check it out. And it's cool that they're releasing it both in black and white and in color. That's a fun idea. It gives people some rewatchability in it. I think it's a fun concept, and I'll definitely check it out.
Which way do you plan on watching it first?
That's a good question. I feel like the intended is probably the black and white noir. Um, so maybe I'll start with that one, or maybe I'll wait to see if there's some people
I
that are like, this is the better version. But I don't know. I might want to
half
check out
half
both.
the half the reason I said that is because I wanted when I or half the reason I brought up Spider Noir. It's obviously good news, but I wanted to put out there like if you watch it in color first, to me, you're a schmuck. Come on, man. Look at these shots. When you watch the trailer, did you watch the trailer in black and white and color?
Yes, yes, I did.
Um, the black and white version to me just has so much more charisma. Like, the color does at times have like some extra to contribute. It would be better if they could do it's not really noir, but if they could kind of get a more technicolor feel, I think the modern feel of the color to me doesn't work as well. The
Yeah,
man spider though, the man spider character looks even grosser and creepier in color. That's
yeah.
like the
No, he's got like
one
some colors on his side of his face. Yeah,
that was the one highlight to me that was like that looks even worse in color, in a good way. But
yeah,
other than that, it's like all the like lightning bolt shots and everything. It's just so um, I love how hard they're going with all these shots. Like all these
yeah,
frames are so noir. Every single frame is like a poster
yeah,
that you could put. And so like I'm that's what I've been most intrigued by is the black and white and the shots of it until I saw Brendan Gleeson and
sure.
he's clearly going to be like the overarching villain no matter what. Like there might be there might be a bit of a villain of the week aspect to it maybe where you have like a Sandman and an Electro and this fire guy come in, but I think Silvermane will no doubt be there the whole time. And then Tombstone, I'm guessing Tombstone is probably working with him. Um,
Yeah,
Tombstone's not really in the trailer that much. There was also a little clip that they released specifically of the villains. So Tombstone is a black guy and he's got like a bit of a something going on with his head. Like obviously if you look, the comic Tombstone has like a really big forehead and he's kind of that's kind of his deal, but he's got a little extra something going on up there. I'm not really sure. But clearly Silvermane is the main villain and I'm excited to see both the detect how they weave the detective part and the Spider-Man part too because you got to really make sure you're giving that detective part of the show its due. Um, and it looks like they're doing that. I mean, everything about this trailer looks like they're really leaning into the mystery detective part and not
yeah,
just Spider-Man looks like a private detective, but he's still doing just a regular Spider-Man stuff. Um, so I'm excited. I think, Nicolas Cage, it'll be interesting. It could be really good or really bad. if he when he doesn't have the Spider Noir suit on, I wonder how if he's going to have the same, if it's going to feel a little weird. But I don't know. It's the most interested. I'll say this is the most interested I've been in a Disney Plus series maybe since WandaVision.
No,
um,
am I wrong on this? I actually thought this was a Amazon series. Because that's what kind of confused me about it. Because I thought that they were releasing
is
this on
this not on
Amazon.
Disney Plus? You know what? You're kind of. I guess you're right. I didn't think about that. Um,
Because I thought I saw the marketing have that, and that made me even more confused about how Amazon has access to do Spider-Man content. Because
oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so it's produced by Sony Pictures Television
okay,
in partnership with Amazon MGM.
okay,
So
so yeah,
yeah, this will
Sony
not
obviously
be
has involved there.
so no, not a Disney Plus show. Never mind, but a Marvel. This is the most excited I've been about a Marvel TV show probably since WandaVision. I should be apparently Daredevil is reaching peak levels again. I haven't. Have
Yeah,
you watched any of the new
I'm a fan of the new
Daredevils?
Daredevil series. I do like it. I'm a huge fan of the original Netflix series. I think this newer series isn't quite as high, but it's got some great stuff, and it's going to be interesting having the comparison of Brendan Gleeson's kind of big bad when you have these last or these two seasons really focusing on Wilson Fisk, another just like big crime boss kind of guy. So I'm wondering how those are kind of compared to each other in these two things, and if they're gonna
Yeah,
find a good space where they're different.
I do think it'll be interesting unless there's something we don't know about Silvermane that
Right.
um that Gleason will have has the kingpin kind of control aspect without the like brute force. I don't imagine. It seems to me like Brendan Gleeson's going to be purely intimidating through his ability to control things um more than like a brute power. Like
Yeah. No, and he's always
I'm not
been an intimidating figure. So.
I'm not expecting Gleason to show up and start beating the guy to death. I'm like
Yeah,
I
I would be
expect him to
surprised.
show up. I could expect him to show up in someone's apartment and scare the living daylights out of him just talking about what's going to happen if you don't
Right.
do X and Y and Z. Um, but no, not like a kingpin beating up Ben Urich um, kind of man. Uh, so that's a wrap on Spider Noir. Let's move on to something else we've been talking about a lot in the recent weeks, which is Resident Evil. We were talking about the footage, and now we have the footage. The Resident Evil trailer dropped, and we've got a couple. I've got just a couple of slides from that. It's not a there's not a whole lot of clips to take. So here we have Austin Abrams on the phone, which kind of sets the tone for the trailer. Is him trying to get in touch with his girlfriend. It seems like, and he's saying he's sorry he hung up earlier, but it's just been a crazy night. And then we get this is just a better shot of him, his actual face here. And then we get this guy, who's probably the most talked about thing from this trailer, because this looks, if you if you showed this picture out of context, pretty much everyone would assume this is Dune.
Yep.
That looks like Baron Harkonnen. It looks like um, it looks like they got Stellan Skarsgård in here. But it is not Baron Harkonnen. This is like a fat zombie sewer guy. So there he is. And then we have probably to me the best shot in the trailer. This is just absolutely terrifying to look at. These limbs coming out of this door in this weird way. Um, you know, it's nothing that hasn't been done before, but that particular framing is pretty cool. And then to close it out, this was probably my favorite actual scene though that they got to show us in the trailer,
Oh
which
yeah.
is these zombies that are just kind of kamikaze throwing themselves down off the building. You know what it reminded me of is it looks like kind of like the scene in 1917 or other war movies where they're running through bombs, except
Oh yeah.
instead of bombs, it's exploding flesh
It
all
reminded
around
me of
them.
have you seen M Night Shyamalan's The Happening?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I have. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this immediately reminded me of that, but I think this looks like it's going to be a better product for sure.
yeah. Well, obviously we were on here. I think we were talking about this last week, so it's not going to be as much to talk about other outside the footage. But this has been called like the Mad Max Fury Road of horror, which is going to get. I mean, if that doesn't get your gears turning. Um, Also, the Zach Kreger actually broke down the trailer a little bit and talked about some things like there's a shot of him like trying to get ammo for his gun, which is a very that's a very video game thing, right? Like you pick up the gun and then you have to
Yeah.
go and you have to like, oh crap, I don't have ammo. And apparently Zach Kreger has said that that kind of element of weapons upgrading is going to be kind of integrated into the movie, which is interesting. Um, and there's going to be apparently some first person shots and some things that like harken to the game. He also showed, I didn't really pull this out because it's so hard to see, but on like the shelf in the house, there's a plant in a pot.
I
And
did see that.
I don't play Resident Evil, but as you would know, that is like the herb that you eat to like regain health and stuff. I'm sure Austin Abrams is not going to be doing that. in the movie
That would be something.
because that's quite silly when you put it in a movie form. Unless you have a really, it works really well in a video game because you always have to get health, but it just doesn't work in a movie. But it's a nice Easter egg. It's apparently
Yeah,
also kind of, he said it's kind of set around the Resident Evil 2, but people have already pointed out it's not like Resident Evil 2 is in the 1998 setting, and this looks like more of a modern setting. And apparently, I think we talked about this last week. Kreger is not getting tangled up in whatever canon of Resident Evil exists.
yeah.
As a fan of the series, what do you think about his approach?
I think that's the right move. I mean, we've gotten all these Resident Evil movies. There's been a couple series, and while the animated series, like movies that are connected with it, are the most watchable part of it, any live action adaptation has been really rough. I mean, they tried to do something totally new with Paul W.S. Anderson's, I don't know, 6 movies that he did, and they're entertaining, but they're not good. And you have a few titular characters in there, but they're treated so poorly that I can't imagine anyone like really feels so hardly for those movies. And then the remake of Welcome to Raccoon City, or sorry, like a reboot, reheat, whatever, of Welcome to Raccoon City was an absolute mess. Like they tried to be so faithful to everything, and it made such a mess of everything, and none of the characters line up to any sort of decent adaptation, and it's not even like a fun watch for a fan of the series. It's honestly depressing. So having these small little clues, like the potted plant, or like slightly upgrading a weapon, and living in like a survival horror environment, that's the kind of adaptation that seems like it's the best move. And if this leads to, I don't know, sequels or something where it somehow integrates, sure. But I honestly trust Zach Kreger to do something so unique with the idea, but also find a way to keep it somewhat grounded to the main. Like it's not just going to be like have the name and have absolutely nothing to do with it. I think there's going to be at least some small clues here and there in the trailer. But I have full faith, especially after this trailer and seeing some of the absolutely freaky things that we are going to get into. And I bet this is just like the top layer of the cake. We are going to get so much more wild stuff that he's going to put in here, and I can't wait. I'll be there opening night for sure.
Do you think this will be the first good video game adaptation?
First, see that's interesting because I don't know about I have a few others that I like. I don't know if you're a fan. I thought the Mortal Kombat movie from a few years ago was a solid adaptation of Mortal Kombat. It's not great, but is it a good adaptation of Mortal Kombat? Absolutely. Um, and we've gotten a few others. Like I'm a passive fan of the Last of Us show, so I wouldn't say that was a
Okay, yeah.
failure.
So I think The Last of Us is a pretty great show and a pretty great adaptation. So I should say film.
Yes,
Um,
film. Yeah, that's definitely the track record for that is I think weakened. Especially if I hope it's the going to be a good Resident Evil film. I mean, it's just been letdown after letdown. I don't know if you even heard of or saw anything of the Netflix series that was out I think a few years ago. Oh my gosh, it's so terrible, and is uses these ideas that the series I don't know does so well, but he uses them as like jokes or just tiny jumping off points, and is such a mess. So I think that regardless, because Zach Kreger is involved, this is just destined to be the best Resident Evil piece of media outside of the games that we've had in a while. Um, and I know fans are ready for it, or at least just ready for more, because earlier this year we just had the release of Resident Evil 9, which is pretty great, a lot of fun, really solid game, but kind of is like looking to the future of the series, and it's kind of moving on to the legacy. Whereas this seems like it's kind of starting something new, and it doesn't matter for me if this builds a franchise. I think it's a cool idea to build off of, and I mean, I'm such a big fan of Barbarians, and Weapons was one of my favorites of last year too. So I got faith in the guy. I think he knows what he's doing.
I think it's going to be the best video game adaptation ever on film or as a
I hope
movie,
so.
at least for the time being. Hopefully, Legend of Zelda can live up to That's
We'll
that's
see.
gonna be that's gonna be tough. Um, but we'll see how I think shedding as much of the lore and I mean video game fans obviously you want to capture the spirit of the game. But most games, translating them directly to the screen, you gotta just shed all of that and just say all I can do is capture the spirit because so many. It's like if they do Zelda, what are we gonna do? Watch Link cooking, going and picking apples out of trees and throwing them in a pot and
Yeah,
like
like breaking into people's houses and throwing pots around. Like that'll be fun for a minute or two, but it can't be a whole movie.
yeah, there can be an Easter egg where Link throws a pot, but you can't go around and you can't literally watch Link running from point A to point B,
No.
spinning around and cutting grass with his sword and doing silly stuff. Like you know, you gotta cut it into a workable story. So I think Kreger has that sensibility. I think we're really getting an auteur here taking a game. So um, speaking of auteurs, I haven't seen the first film or the well-known film from I'm always gonna is it Na Jing Han or
I
Na
just had it.
Hong Jin? I
I
always
here. I'll pull it up right here. I just had it. It's Na Hong-Jin.
Na Hong Jin. Thank you because I always switch those around.
Yeah,
Na Hong Jin, the director of The Wailing, which a lot of people really like. Have you seen The Wailing?
I have. It's been a while, but it is one of the most like effectively creepy Korean horror movies I've seen. It's a little. It's on the longer side. It's like 2.5 hours, which is not very common for horror. But they build the tension of kind of the demonic entity building within this community really well. And there's a scene near the end that I don't think I could forget. It's stunning and terrifying. And I got to watch it again though. It's been a while.
And that's been apparently 10 years ago, I think, since that movie came out.
Yeah,
Um,
2016.
and so this is the first film from him in a decade, and so a lot of people are very excited. This is going to the Cannes Film Festival, and it's in competition, which is rare for a kind of horror thriller genre piece like this. And Park Chan-Wook, who we're going to talk about in a minute, is the head of this year's Cannes Film Festival. So some people are actually speculating this could have a shot because Park Chan-Wook enjoys some genre trappings. So if this film is good and has something beyond, we should talk a little bit about. We're gonna show. Let's show the photos, and then we'll get into a
Sure.
little bit about what the film is kind of about. We don't really know. Uh, this first image, it doesn't really show us anything except for he's got a gun. And they're looking through. It looks like kind of a garage. Is this image as captivating to you as it is to me? For something about this just really stands out to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe in the lighting and kind of just you can see there's terror in those eyes. I think that is
And it's
nice and
something to do
provocative.
with the way that the grid is and the condensation
Yeah,
on the windows with like there's obviously some I don't know which language, I guess Korean, on the um like kind of painted onto the
yeah.
windows. I don't know. It's just a very arresting image to me visually, even though it's not really got the most telling us anything that's going on. But anyway, obviously, here's another great shot of one of the stars with a large gun coming out of a police car, which is cool. Um, and we have another guy with a gun, and he's got a badge as well. So I'm not sure if he's also police. I really love this shot because I think it's something that we don't see as much. Like I think when we see Asian cinema, Korean cinema, we like don't see this farmer look. I think this is kind of cool to see a more like it kind of brings it in for someone to me who lives in Alabama and sees, a
Sure.
bunch of folks dressed like this kind of way all the time. It kind of makes it more approachable to me than like a big city kind of thing that we often see. Like we see Tokyo a lot and things. Um, and another shot of them in a police car looking at something unknown. So we don't get what they're looking at. However, um, there's apparently some kind of creatures, some kind of potentially extraterrestrials that are set upon this small village in Korea. And the big thing that they're hiding here is there are two uh, Western stars in this movie, Alicia Vikander and Michael Fassbender. And so a lot of people are speculating that they might have something to do with the extraterrestrials. They might be connected to the extraterrestrials because they're not shown here. But that may just be because they have a different role. Um, what do you think of these images? What do you think about this movie?
This looks really cool. I love there's the banner that Letterboxd has for it. It's on the poster too of like there's this guy riding a horse and this other guy like clung to him, kind of hanging off the side. And there's something like kind of frantic and freaky about it that and as it like looks up on the trees. And I did just check. It's actually the genres around it are science fiction, thriller, and action. So it's not labeled as a horror movie. With like even though having a premise of like residents finding themselves in a fight for survival, often does fall into that category. But with the Wailing, and there's also another one that this director has done called The Chaser, which is sort of more of a action thriller, but it's like you said, the word is arresting. Like it's just gripping. It draws you in, both like the Wailing, and I think that the action is going to be really great. You see that there's definitely going to be some gunplay here, and I think that that's with cops and I get fighting against. I don't know if it's going to be like humanoid enemies or like extraterrestrial sort of things. And having the Western actors does keep me intrigued as well. I mean, I would have seen this regardless, even if it was just a Korean language film with all Korean actors. But having two powerhouses like Alicia Vikander and Michael Fassbender in there, that has me just already intrigued. And it's interesting in the cast they don't have names in the cast where some others do. So I'm wondering maybe you're right where they are somehow connected to that extraterrestrial force, or even if they're like a voice only or something like that, because they aren't in any of these pictures. But I think regardless of what capacity they're involved in, they usually do have a presence. So I'm excited. I'm always excited to see more Korean cinema breakthrough. I feel like every year I only get to see a few, and I'm always looking to see more because I usually have a great time with them. They're always great, puzzles to solve, and it's always usually a lot of really interesting ideas going on. So I'll definitely be checking this out.
Yeah, and if you're watching this, you can go back and watch our episode last week, or you can go Google. But there was some footage shown at CinemaCon, and apparently it showed a bit of the creatures and some of the stuff, and apparently it is really gnarly and interesting. So
Okay.
my my excitement, my interest level for this has been going way up. I can't wait to hear about when it premieres at Cannes and see what people think. Um, could get itself into the Oscar race if it does well at Cannes. Could end up
Sure.
like could end up like The Substance kind of, although The Substance was English language. So I don't think we're done talking about Hope, especially when it comes out and gets its first reviews. So uh yeah, so speaking of Korean film, we are talking about Park Chan-Wook, and Park Chan-Wook is interesting because he has had several movies where people have thought maybe this is the one. Maybe he can break into like the best picture kind of race or kind of get American recognition. Both of his last two films, No Other Choice and Decision to Leave, specifically, um, and uh, and they haven't. But now he is kind of pivoting because he's doing a film with an American cast, seemingly in English, based on a screenplay by S. Craig Zahler, who did Bone Tomahawk. Um, so we're going to skip over and actually read a little bit about this from our founder, Duke Carlston, over at the Wasteland. Let me get that set. So yeah, so the movie's going to be called The Brigands of Rattle Creek. This screenplay has been around for like 2 decades. And so I looked. I don't think Park Chan-Wook. I think he's written most of the stuff he's directed. So it's very interesting to me that he's now going to adapt or direct an original screenplay from an American. And we got a cast for it. So according to Deadline, Matthew McConaughey, Austin Butler, Pedro Pascal, and Tang Wei are set to star in Park's Western Passion Project, The Brigands of Rattle Creek. It's hitting the market at Cannes this month with the legendary label 193. The A $60 million budget. This is such an interesting collaboration to me. Tyler, I saw that I did see on Letterboxd you have seen Bone Tomahawk. I'm sure you've seen some Park
Yep.
Chan-Wook stuff. What do you think about this pairing?
I gotta be honest. I didn't actually hear about this until you had messaged me about it the other day, and this has me really excited because um, not only have I seen Bone Tomahawk, but Craig Zoller also did um, Dragged Across Concrete and Brawl in Cell Block 99. I'm not super high on Dragged Across Concrete, but both and including Tomahawk are all like such interesting extremist violence films that are like kind of right on that line of like exploitation film, but also remaining these like extremely tense horror scenarios that are gruesome, but I don't know, within a realm of that doesn't totally take you out. I'm sure that's not the case for some people. There's probably a few scenes in all of them, especially Bone Tomahawk, that people probably turned right off as soon as they got there. But there are some unforgettable moments in there for me. And having a script that he wrote, put into Park Chan-wook's hands, who has such an interesting mind for how stories are told and how relationships are built within his films. I am so interested. I like this cast. It's an interesting combo because I mean I like all of them. I'm not like so huge on any of them. I did just catch up with Decision to Leave before I saw No Other Choice, and that had Teng Wei in it, and she is phenomenal. So she's probably my biggest pull in that cast as of right now. But I love all of Park Chan-wook's work, and so I definitely would have seen this regardless. I've heard that this is a really killer script. I saw a few comments about this saying that like people it kind of has been passed around a lot, so a lot of people have had the chance to read it, and whether you're working for like a film production company or something. So a lot of people have read it and they say that it is like about time that it's made into a movie because it is an absolute trip. So I'm in. I'm definitely going to be there for it. I actually kind of want to read the script now too, but it just seems like a
Well,
great match. And
if you want to read the script, I can get it to you. I did read the script. after
okay, hey, I
after
might take you up on that.
after hearing about the news, I decided to go ahead and read the script, which is the script was titled Brigands of Rattleborge. Just they've changed the name slightly. Um,
Okay.
but it is really good dialogue. It has that Zahler flair. So funny enough, I've only seen Bone Tomahawk from Zahler. I have not seen the other two yet, although I've heard about them. And for me, Bone Tomahawk, the best part of Bone Tomahawk is in between the violence. The
Yeah,
best the best part of Bone Tomahawk is when the four guys are walking across the desert. Like it
yeah,
is literally you could basically remove all the violence and the horror aspect from Bone Tomahawk, and it would still, if you like, if I mean, if found the resolution, it's to me, it's one of the great westerns, of
yeah,
just, I mean, it's a basic western. It's people going to get vengeance or rescue somebody, and they have to go
yep,
out across a long ways, and they're just most of it is just talking, and it's really good. The interplay between the characters that he has. On the other hand, there is that exploitation aspect where he really does walk a line. I know there's a lot of people who criticize Bone Tomahawk because you know in Bone Tomahawk it says this is not a regular Native American tribe. They are a specifically isolated tribe, and that's why they're so brutal and cannibalistic and all of this. Some people say that that's really just kind of a flimsy excuse to portray Native Americans as brutal and cannibalistic as they have sometimes in the past. Um, and so now the script that I read is from 2010. So I think that's probably before Bone Tomahawk even came out, right? So maybe. Anyway, so I think
I'll
um,
check for you.
things may have the script is probably changing, and has changed a decent bit since then. But this is not really a spoiler. It doesn't really affect the plot, but there are some Native Americans in this in the very beginning, and there is a conversation that they have about cannibalism. And I'm like,
Hmm.
maybe drop the cannibal Native American part because
Yeah.
it does not have any plot relevance. So hopefully they drop that when they adapt this because it's going to give people more of a reason to side eye um,
Yeah.
Craig Zahler to be like, why are we doing cannibal Indians again? Um, I also will say it's interesting that Tang Wei is has been cast. Um, I hope that they expand a role because there's not a lot of female roles in this that are
Hmm.
particularly interesting. I don't know who any of these people would be based just on reading the script. Um, there is a sheriff character who has a wife. Nothing about it would say that would be Tang Wei. There's also another character that's described as wearing a kimono. I don't know if that
Hmm.
means that she's supposed to be Asian in the script and if she's playing that character. Either way, the basic plot line that's been thrown out, not from people reading the script, just with the news, is that basically a group of renegades uses a thunderstorm as cover to go and rob and terrorize a town, and then there's like some people that from the town that set out for vengeance. It's a very basic
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, and it's kind of a cycle of it's kind of a movie that examines a little bit the cycle of vengeance. Although I have to say one of the things, and again, this isn't really a spoiler because this would be from the first scene. Um, you don't step into the cycle of vengeance midway, where someone's getting
Hmm.
revenge on someone else. You know, most of the time when you step into the cycle of vengeance, you're like there's a long history of the cycle's been going on, and then you have to learn like you're never going to get out of this unless you end it. But here you see the beginning of the cycle of vengeance because these guys just do something bad. There's no like there's no vengeance on their part, so it kind of is different in a way because you're like it's I don't know, it's different than if you step in midway. Um,
Sure.
so in a lot of ways, the plot itself is very simple, and I wonder what Park Chan-Wook is going to do with it, versus versus. The thing is, the characters and the dialogue is also going. If they leave the script the way it is, it's going to be a little bit controversial because at least there's at least one thing I can think of in particular, and it's very black comedy. But there's a two characters are debating the grammar of something,
Hmm.
and the topic is very gruesome and bad. And so some people may find that to be exploitative as well. Um, it's going to be an interesting film. We'll see how much it
Sure.
changes from the script that's out there. But and I haven't fallen in love with Park Chan Wook as a director yet. I haven't seen Lady Vengeance or Old Boy or Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. I've seen part of The Handmaiden, but I needed to claw it back in because I was getting lost. Um, there was a little bit. It's a pretty. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So, but I like. I watched No Other Choice in the theater, and I enjoyed it on a certain level, but not necessarily as much as a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
and so, but I love Bone Tomahawk, and so I'm really interested to see the partnership. But it's just, and what that is, again was that Austin Butler, Matthew McConaughey, and Pedro Pascal like in a western. It's just such an enigma.
Yeah. They all seem like they would fit into a western, so that should be fun.
So hopefully, I guess this is coming out in I don't know if this is coming out in 2028 or maybe 2027. Maybe they if they buy it up and they shoot it this year, then maybe it'll come out next year. I'm gonna be keeping my eye heavily on that one. Um, moving on to our last element here. There's another Blair Witch project, which I know everyone is super stoked for. Because all the other Blair Witch follow-ups have been so good. No, the Blair Witch Project, the original movie, um, to me is perfect for what it wants to be. Um, and that works really well for me. I mean, I really like it. So, um, what's your take on the original Blair Witch Project? And then we'll get into the news of what's going on.
I really like the original. I'm a huge fan of found footage horror. So the first time I saw this, it was absolutely effective. I mean, it's just a great like late night lights out watch, and things get real freaky, and has that ending that leaves you just kind of sitting there terrified. Um, I have seen it since, and I don't know how well it holds up on consistent rewatches, just because I feel like those scares are really great the first time, and I mean that's the same with all horror movies, where once you kind of know the scare, it doesn't quite work as well. Um, but yeah, I've heard that I have not seen them, but I've heard that the sequels are not worth getting into. So having a full reboot, I don't quite know who was really clamoring for this, but I mean, having an original cast as producers does seem interesting. It seems like they're going to try to keep the original idea going, but I don't know.
I don't know what they're doing with the reboot. I will say, um, I'm the original. I've rewatched it and it actually gets better for me. And just it's weird
Okay.
because it's kind of like Bone Tomahawk. To me, you could strip most of the supernatural stuff out of it, and it would still be at its core a pretty darn good movie. Like because it's just even if it was just three college age people who are investigating a spooky myth and then they get lost in the woods and they start to lose their minds a little bit because they once you get lost in the woods and you lose your map and you just start to feel like you're going it would be very easy to get lost for a lot of people, especially if the woods are dense enough.
Yeah.
And even if there's no witch at all, you could start to absolutely lose your mind if one of them wanders off. um, but the fact that there is the supernatural stuff going on is awesome, and it's so sparse and so well meted out, and then you get the cool ending where that sent everyone into frenzy. I don't know what we're gonna do with this reboot. Hopefully, now it's important to understand it's what it's adding is to the original stars, the two guys that were in the movie are joining on as producers, executive producers, which means they probably won't have a huge role in what's going on. They will be able
Yeah.
to like give ideas. But to me, the most important thing is if this makes money, they'll get some money. Which, that's the real story here is they made a tiny, tiny film that went absolutely mega hit and made millions. And because no one could have imagined that, they don't really make that great money from the first movie. And then they've made what, four sequel, remake, reboot things, and they haven't attached the original folks. And so I don't think those folks have gotten any money. So good for these guys on getting attached to this. I hope it makes at least like $20 million and they get a good little chunk. Whether it's bad, whether it's good, it would just be nice to see people who went out and just made this labor of love that turned into this huge deal finally get to see some money from something that is still like to
Yeah.
this day. Blair Witch is like the standard of like found footage horror. Um,
Yeah.
unless you go to Cloverfield, like that's pretty much the two. If you say found footage horror, someone's going to either say Blair Witch or Cloverfield. Um,
Yeah, but Blair Witch like really kind of started the whole trend. So I mean, I feel like it has the upper hand. So as long as that, I mean, if they make it a non-found footage movie, I don't know why they would do that. I mean, it seems like it kind of has to be. Um, But I do want to say that the name isn't totally lost. There was a video game that just called Blair Witch. I don't know if any of the original creators were involved at all. I think it came out in like 2017 or 2018. But it is a very interesting exploration of kind of like loss and psychosis within a video game setting, as you kind of have a camera and you kind of use a phone that like you call people and you don't know if some of the things are real or not. So the ideas are there. There are definitely some cool things. That game gets a little lost in like monsters of the woods and doesn't quite hit the mark on that. But I know that there are definitely some interesting ideas regarding this Blair Witch mythology that you can definitely do. And I hope it's not just like a full flat, absolute remake. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I like found footage, so we'll see.
Yeah,
But
I would say
I'm skeptical.
I would say you make this movie, you get it as much money as you can, you get some money
Yeah,
to the
get out.
original cast, and then you get out. Because
Yep.
really, the original film did not in any way set up franchisability. I mean, the entire point of the original film was it looked like a documentary. Enough so that some people actually thought it was real. I
Yeah.
mean, now they were a little bit dumb because there was enough stuff out there to like say, no, this is fictional, but we're just pretending it's real. But still, like it's close. I mean, the interviews with the townspeople looks like something out of a real documentary, and that sets the standard for when they're out there in the woods just filming themselves going nuts. And like again, it's so reserved. There's not really any mythology. I mean, there is a little from what the townspeople say, but outside of that, there's no real mythology. It's just it's just enough to get you through that one movie. So
Yeah.
there's really nowhere you can go trying to expand on that mythology. Maybe I mean someone creative might be able to do it, but I don't really I don't really see it ever going well.
Yeah.
It's there's some movies it's like if they came out with After Sun 2. It's like
Okay.
where where do you go? Like
What are you
what
doing? Yeah.
that movie is a complete experience. How would you do that? So you can't
Yeah.
franchise everything. But I understand
I have a,
it's a cheap to make and they're cheap to make, so you're like, oh, I can find a way. Can we just retire some of these and let them be what they are? Because people talk about paranormal activity. No one talks about paranormal activity 4. No one cares. But I guess as long as it makes some money, they don't really care.
yeah. Let's keep going.
But it makes the whole. I mean, it doesn't really affect. I'm one of those where it's like at the end of the day, you can watch Paranormal Activity and still enjoy it the same. But when you think about Paranormal Activity now, you're like, you think of it as a schlocky, low budget franchise that they just pump for money instead of a really cool, like indie, low budget, make some scares out of nothing. You don't think about it that way anymore in my mind because I'm like, because you've beaten the horse to death.
Yep.
So anyway, new Blair Witch project coming soon. We don't know what it's like, but kudos to these main two guys for finally getting their bag. Hopefully it makes uh, enough money to get them something they can live on, and a small enough amount of money so that they'll kill the franchise. That's that's the goal.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up this week's edition of the Wasteland Wrap. Thank you guys so much for joining. We will see you again next week. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of great movie news. I think people are saying it's about time for another Odyssey trailer. Uh, that'll be fun. And we got a lot of great stuff that we didn't get to talk about today, so maybe it will pop up next week. Um, thanks so much. We'll see you out there in the wasteland and back here next Friday.